Okay. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Lighting the Lamp podcast. I am here with Tim.
Yo.
As always. And today we are going to be doing our regular season wrap-up as we continue our coverage of what is now going to become the NHL playoffs at some point. So today we're going to be doing our regular season wrap-up, and we're going to be doing our play-in round predictions. So we're just going to kind of go through, and we're going to kind of talk about the regular season in a very general sense, because it's hard to really make concrete comparisons when so many teams were at so many different places when the stoppage happened. Some teams had games in hand. Some teams were still chasing playoff spots. So we're just going to kind of talk about, maybe some teams that disappointed, some teams that did what we thought they would do, some teams that maybe need to take a look in the mirror and find out what's going on for next season, and just general stuff like that before we jump into the play-in round predictions. So the team that I want to start talking about, we're going to start in the Metro Division. There are two teams in particular I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Flyers, and I want to talk about the Rangers. But let's start in the city of brotherly love. The Philadelphia Flyers, in my opinion, probably had what I would consider the most successful season in the NHL this year. And what I mean by that is obviously, the Boston Bruins had the President's Trophy. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Lightning had more points than them. Obviously, they didn't get first place in the Metro Division. But what I mean by success in this instance is the Flyers were a team that going in, I had them pegged for second in the Metro, but I saw a lot of people putting them in that third place wild card kind of spot. But at one point, they were, I think, only 2 or 3 points out from the Washington Capitals chasing down top spot in the Metro Division. And all indications were when the stoppage happened that they likely would have caught the Capitals and won the Metro Division. I think Carter Hart has been the answer in net for the Philadelphia Flyers that they've been looking for so long. A lot of the defensemen took a big step forward this year. I just think they had a fantastic season. Before I continue ranting on too much, Tim, what are your thoughts on the Philadelphia Flyers this year?
I think Kevin Hayes changed the team. I think he's the heart and soul. He's the best player that team's ever seen.
The $7 million man, Kevin Hayes.
Yes. I can think of no one better on that team.
How many points did Kevin Hayes even have this year?
41.
Yeah, I mean, they signed him to be that second-line center behind Claude Giroux, even though they still have Sean Couturier, so I'm not really sure why they did that. But I don't know.
That's mostly a joke. I
know. You really think? Why do you hate Kevin Hayes, though?
Nah, he's just a goober, bro. Like he didn't do shit on the Rangers, and then he went to the Flyers, and all of a sudden he started He has a lot of game-winning goals, actually, for no reason.
He's just clutch, bro.
He really is. I don't know. Have you seen the video of him saying he sucks on the bench? He's like, I'm the worst fucking player in the league. I'm garbage.
He's I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna retire right now. I mean, to be fair, Grant, he's not worth the money they're paying him for sure. But I mean, they're doing something right in Philly. What do you think? Does it really all just kind of come down to that they finally have a goalie in Philadelphia? Do you think that that's kind of what the magic potion has been for them this year?
I think that really gave them the boost of confidence that they needed to build the team around. They have a pretty young team, honestly. Or they have a kind of middle of the career team, actually. And I feel like a lot of those guys have been doing it for a long time, and they just got discouraged by the fact that they just, even when they were winning, it was off their pure bullshit luckery.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed this year with Carter Hart in particular, because we know that the Flyers have been looking for a starting goalie for basically since Ron Hextall left. I mean, they've gone through so many different goalies. There was, they had the Brizgalov era, and then they had the Steve Mason era, and then they had I don't even remember who was after that for a while. They just had this rotating string of goalies that just weren't good. They played 7 different starters last year. And then finally Carter Hart steps in, and he's the go-to guy that they're going to bring in the net every night. And I think that's really stabilized the team. I mean, I also really love the defense. I think they might honestly have one of the best defensive cores in the
Brian
National
Elliott
Hockey
ain't
League.
bad either.
No, you know what? I have to give credit to where credit's due. He had a really good season after like completely falling apart last year. He had a pretty good year this year, so that's a very fair point. But I feel like, you know, they just kind of rounded out the team a little bit. I mean, we knew they could score goals going into the year, but the fact they finally have a goalie they can rely on after, they had Cam Talbot for like, you know, a couple of games, so that was cool. You know, just like this rotating string of goalies. And do you think that they would have caught the Washington Capitals if the season would have kept going? Or do you think they would have ended up in that second to third spot?
I think that they end up in second to third. I don't think because Carter Hart just got hot and won like 14 games at home in a row or some shit like that. Whatever it was, they were 14 games undefeated at home.
They were. That's a good point because I think they were a significantly better home team than they were on the road.
Yeah, so I think that eventually it would have caught up with them a little bit. That blind kind of luck that they had.
Let's see. At home, they were 25-6-4, and on the road, they were 16-15-3. They were 25-10 at home. That is crazy.
That's okay. Crap. Yeah, so they might even they were like plus 14 at one point. That's probably what I was thinking of. But
that's ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. Like it.
Wow.
It just made all the difference. Really, winning those home games was so important.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I think the team took a really big step forward this year. I mean, obviously, you would like to see maybe a little bit of a better road record, but I think they took
when
a huge...
you do that well at home, you don't need to do well on the road.
That's true. I mean, by the time the NHL stopped, they were 41-21-7, so they were 41-28. The exact same record as the Capitals, except the one difference is the Capitals had one extra overtime loss instead of a regulation loss. So the Flyers were 1 point behind the Capitals when everything paused. Both had 69 games played at that time. I in my opinion, I think they probably would have ended up catching the Caps because the Caps were kind of hitting a bit of a slide when everything stopped. And obviously the Flyers being so good at home. I mean, good luck to anybody trying to play in the Wells Fargo Center next season because forget about it. I mean, that's just a nightmare. But I think, in my opinion, they probably had the most successful season in that people didn't really expect them to be chasing that first spot. And I mean, they were 1 point behind the Washington Capitals. And I mean, that's saying something. That's a significant achievement for that team. So do you have any last minute thoughts on the Flyers, or would you want to move on to a team that I'm sure you have opinions on in the New York Rangers?
We can go wherever you want, bud. Lead the way.
So let's talk about the New York Rangers here because
here we go.
I don't want to sound like that guy, but I feel pretty proud of myself for calling that they pretty much did exactly what I said they were going to do. Which was play meaningful games late into the season. I think a lot of people kind of had them pegged for a team that's like, well, they can't defend. Their defense sucks. Henrik's not what it used to be. Sure, Georgiev's good, but they're really not going to be there. They're probably going to be towards the bottom. I saw people putting the Devils ahead of them in their preseason predictions. And the Rangers did exactly what I said they were going to do, which is they were going to be great at scoring. They were going to be a little leaky on defense, but they were going to have a ton of scoring, and they were going to be playing significant games late into the season. I personally, in my predictions, I think I had them as the first or second team out of the playoffs. But when the stoppage happened, I think they were, again, in that one or two spots out. I think it's hard to tell here because they scaled on point percentage, but based on pure points, I think they were the first team out. If I'm reading this correctly, but so a lot of things happened for the Rangers this season. Obviously, Artemi Panarin had a fantastic year. Georgiev did what we knew Georgiev could do. Shesterkin's come over from the KHL, and he played some really good games for them.
He actually was the clutch factor in their resurgence in the end of the season, without a doubt.
Well, he won what, 5 of his first 6 starts or something like that.
I think it was 7.
So my take on this Rangers season is it's a completely successful season, regardless of the fact that would they have made the playoffs, would they not have made the playoffs, would they have fizzled out. That's all up in the air. I mean, obviously there was the Kreider injury. Mika Zibanejad was on a heater when the regular season ended. Would he have kept that up? That's up for debate. I think, in my opinion, the Rangers would have made the playoffs had the season continued on. I think they would have passed either Columbus or Florida.
Their schedule was pretty difficult, and that was kind of the only issue.
But I consider this a success. So if we're taking the season for what it is, where they're going to get a chance to play in this play-in round, they're going to get a chance to play meaningful hockey, I think that's a complete success for the New York Rangers. The only thing they didn't do is figure out the goaltending situation. As far as what do we do about Hank and his $8 million? So how do you view the 2019-2020 season as a New York Rangers fan? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? What do you feel?
At this point, I mean, I'm happy. I like to see my team do well. I'm a little disappointed. I kind of wish that they would have thrown one more season. Maybe went for a higher pick. I'm not even kidding. Like I wish that they might have went for a higher pick, and then next season did this. But I'm very happy with the way that Panarin really excelled and became part of the team. That's very good. The kids all stepped up, but that's the scary part. Like, couldn't these kids all step up next season when, like, no one wanted them? Now the season's going to end and everyone's going to fucking want them. And it's going to ruin their fucking money situation.
How do you feel about the fact that we're going into this offseason with the 3 goalies? Obviously, I think it's pretty fair to say that Shesterkin is here to stay. I think it's pretty fair to assume that Georgiev is also now locked into that number 2 role. Do you wish they would have made a trade? Do you think they're going to make a trade in the offseason? Do you think they're going to ask Hank to retire? How do you feel knowing that they kept the 3 goalies going into the end of the season and they're gonna go into the offseason like that?
Okay, so the issue is it's not just Hank that's the problem right this second. Mark Stahl is also taking up a fuck ton of cap space, and one of them needs to go. No, it's just a fact. One of them needs to go. So which ones is it going to be? Are they going to buy out Hank or are they going to buy out Stahl? Once they decide that, then the team can move forward. But until then, they're stuck.
Who would you buy out of the 2?
Personally, I buy out Hank.
Mark Stahl is, after this year, he has 1 year at 5.7.
What do you do? What the fuck do you do with Mark Stahl, with Hank if you keep him? Like, realistically, like, what are you going to do with him? At least Stahl, you can put him on the 3rd line. He's not an awful defenseman. The guy can do his job.
Yeah, and he's also carrying significantly less money. He's worth $2.8 million less than Henrik Lundqvist. Hank being at $8.5 million right now at 38 years of age. And the Rangers kind of need that money because they're sitting on $16.9 million about of cap space. Thank you to our friends at Cat Friendly for this information, by the way. And they have to sign Ryan Strome, Jesper Fast, Brendan Lemieux, and Greg McKagan. Phil DiGiuseppe is fine, but Tony DeAngelo is going to need money. That's what I'm saying.
Sure. These fucking kids, they couldn't wait a season to do this. We could have signed them for like dog shit, and then just popped off next season, and they would have been locked in. But no, they had to go do well.
Well, the good thing is you have Mika Zibanejad for a total steal. I mean, he's only making $5.3 million for a guy that was probably going to score 40 goals, and he's a bona fide first-line center.
Mika was a steal. Kreider wasn't a steal, but it was a good deal. Who else?
You have Buchnevich, who's making 3.2. He's kind of been more of a middle 6 type forward for them this year.
Yeah, that's a fine amount. The issue, the Rangers have always been superstars surrounded by okay players. That's just how the team's always been. So I don't mind that there's a couple guys making some decent money like that. Like if Jacob Trouba, how much is he making actually? He's making a pretty decent
Jacob Trouba's making 8 a pop.
You see, he's worth it though. He's such a good defenseman.
Yeah, well, Georgiev's going to need a contract. They could try to trade Brendan Smith's $4.3 million contract. He's got a limited no trade clause. So, I guess a couple of questions. Do you think the Rangers should name a captain next year? And if so, who do you think it should be?
The issue is, like, I don't know the locker room. I've always liked Kreider, and you know that. He's always been my guy. So I would say it's him. But if you told me that it needs to be Mika, I'd understand.
Yeah, a lot of people are pegging him as the next captain.
I feel like the people pegging him are just because they like the scoring. They like the fact that he's always on the scoreboard. But, like, there's more to being a captain than just scoring the most goals. Look at Ryan Callahan. Ryan Callahan was an excellent captain for the team. He wasn't even top 3 in points.
This is very true. I do want to ask you as well, how do you feel about Mr. Number 2 pick, Kaapo Kakko? Obviously, he kind of didn't pop off the way a lot of people thought he would, but how do you feel about his first season in the NHL?
I'm a little disappointed, but it's the real tough part is that, like, most kids join the league and don't do anything for a season or two. It's interesting that we've had this random surge in the past, like, 5 or 6 years of kids just coming straight out of the draft, top 30, no matter who they are, and just excelling. That's why Jack Hughes is catching all the flack in Jersey, because he's just not doing it. But, like, it's his first season. Give him a break.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the Devils as well, because I think they probably have what I would consider the most disappointing season in the NHL. But so you're happy with the team, but you're worried about the cap implications, and you're worried that it might have been a little bit too soon because you have to sign such big names like Tony DeAngelo, Ryan Strome, Alex Georgiev, stuff like that. You
need to sign a lot of key components that, like, could have, if a season went by, we could have got them.
It would also have saved you the deal with Henrik Lundqvist if Georgiev or Shesterkin had taken maybe one more year.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about it because Hank just could have rode the bench for the time being. No one would have cared. We would have moved all nice along, nice and smoothly.
So let me ask you this as a lifelong Ranger fan, as somebody who's seen Henrik play for this team. Ethically, morally, do you feel like the Rangers owe it to Hank to let him do whatever he wants to end his career? Or do you think that there would be in an okay place as a hockey franchise if they kind of gave him the nudge, hey, can we maybe either buy you out or maybe you just retire and let us move forward? Do you think Hank has earned the right to end his career the way he wants to? Or do you think that the organization has the right to be like, listen, like, we've got to make moves for this money?
I think if Hank wants to, they should appease his trade list if he makes one.
So what if he says he doesn't want to go anywhere? What if he's saying, I want to stay in New York?
Then fuck him.
Then you're buying him out?
Yeah, honestly, like, the team needs to do what's best for the franchise, and he is not the best for the franchise right now.
Interesting. I kind of agree, though. And I hate to say it because
the issue is, like, Hank needs to realize it's not like he was playing okay. He had a couple bad games. This guy's literal dog shit.
You're not wrong. He was very leaky this year.
Like, he went out and literally, like, every game, I was like, oh, he's going to do it this game. This is going to be his turnaround game. He's going to start playing great from here on out. And then he'd go in and let in a goal instantly, like, far side, just, like, blow it by him.
Yeah, and I hate to say it because you know me, I'm a very big supporter of guys that play
a playoff spot if he doesn't blow all those games that they lost.
Yeah, I mean, they were only like 1 or 2 points out of the last wildcard spot when it stopped.
Exactly.
And and I hate to say that buying him out is the best way to do it, but I mean, at this point, you need that money. I mean, even if buying you, I don't know how the money would work if you did buy him out, but say, for example, it saves you $6 or $7 million this year. I mean, you need that money. I mean, you have to sign certain guys that are part of the solution long term, and he's just not.
He's not willing to go down either. Like, he wasn't willing. He's not cooperating or trying to work with the team at all. It's, I want to play, and that's cool. But then you need to play well,
or play in a different jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
So Hank, do you think, from a Rangers fan perspective, knowing how management works, do you think that they'll do something this offseason, or do you think they're just going to bite the bullet and just be like, well, it's Hank? I don't know, how aggressive you think they are.
Considering they drove Gabrick out of there, I have no fucking idea what they're going to do. Like, come on. Like, this is the Rangers here. If anything, we're best at being unpredictable.
That's very true. Very true. And that's a very fair thing to say. So I guess one last note on the Rangers before you move on. Who's the prince? Who's the heir to the throne? Is it Shesterkin or is it Georgiev?
One last thing I'd like to say actually is I said they should have gotten rid of Hank before they gave him that extension, if you remember correctly. I said they should have gotten rid of Hank, kept the young goalies in net because they had Shesterkin down there. And I said they should have just ran Georgiev and fucking, what's his name? Fucking douche canoe. They've had 6 goalies, like 6 young goalies that they all get rid of and just, they don't care. They trade them for nothing. But I've said for a while that Hank should have been off the team sooner and they should have been developing the younger goalies. But that's besides the point. So I think it's, I just have to get that off my chest. I think that it's Igor.
You think it's Shesterkin? Do you think that Georgiev's going to be a long-term fixture net for the Rangers, or do you think he's too good and he's going to want to start somewhere?
I honestly, in my wholehearted opinion, I think Georgiev goes somewhere like Anaheim.
I'm surprised the Sabres didn't call for Georgiev during the trade deadline. I thought they could have used him real bad.
I'd say like maybe Anaheim. Before Blackwood really popped off, I would have said Chicago. Or not on Blackwood, whatever his name is in Chicago.
Their goalies are this year was Leonard and Crawford.
Yeah, Leonard. Leonard played really well. Otherwise, I would have said him. He could go there. I feel like Chicago's always rotating goalies. He could wind up in Detroit.
That'd be a great fit for him, I think, personally. That's I didn't even consider that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, he could wind up in Detroit. There are a few different orgs that could use him. He could be a franchise goalie, is the thing. He's not I don't know if he's a franchise Stanley Cup winning goalie, but he's a franchise goalie.
To me, he seems very like Corey Crawford, good enough to get it done on the right team.
Mm-hmm.
So any last minute thoughts about the New York Rangers, or have you said your piece?
I've said all I have to
say. So let's talk about.
So fuck Glenn Saylor. All right, that's it.
There's so many teams you could talk about. We'll talk about one more team in the East.
We should talk about Nashville.
Let's talk about Nashville. What the hell is going on in Nashville with, first of all, everything, but primarily what is going on with the goalies? Because we heard, sure, you can understand Pekka Rinne being kind of okay, mediocre this year because of his age, but Jussi Saros was supposed to be the next Pekka Rinne, and he's just been equally as bad.
Dog.
Yeah. What do you think's going on in Smashville?
I have no idea. They're literally all. I personally think ever since they got rid of Weber, they've gone on a slow decline. PK Subban came in there. He kind of popped off. He was really a resurgence for the team, and then they just got rid of him.
Yeah, they kind of just shifted him away, right?
And they maybe they thought Forsberg was going to be like the name. He was going to be the guy. He's not. He's nothing. He's a Matt Duchene.
Who they went out of their way to sign.
Yeah.
That's why they traded PK Subban in the first place.
That's what I'm saying. They're both just Matt Duchene type players. Great second liners.
And they still have Ryan Johansson too. They basically have 3 centers who are all great second line centers.
And they have what's his name on D. I'm drawing a blank on everything right this second.
So they also have Kyle Turris too. God, they have so many like mediocre centers. Not mediocre, but not first line centers, but they play them like first line centers. Who do you think, I have it up here, who do you think led them in scoring this year? If you had to take a shot in the dark, like off the dome.
If it's not Forsberg?
I'm not going to say who it is, but just take a shot.
It's the defenseman. Whatever the fuck his name is. I can't think of it.
Yeah, Roman Josi had 65 points this year.
That's
and the next closest guy was Forsberg with 48.
How many goals did he have?
Josi had 16, Forsberg at 21.
How many goals did the team have as a whole?
Let me see.
I have the team standings up. Hold up. They had 215. I feel like that's low.
Let's see. We'll pull up their goals for per game. The Nashville Predators goals for per game they were 16th in the league at 3.07 goals for per game.
All right,
so they were kind of just like mediocre.
Yeah. But
the problem was they were 20th in goals against.
Yeah, so they're just a mediocre team all around.
But this was a team that people were saying is a Stanley Cup contender at the beginning of the year.
Honestly, I think it's really just the bottom lines on their team are just dog shit. I think that they just have no depth past their second line.
Looking at some of the players here, I mean, they're playing guys like, Austin Watson fell off a cliff. Victor Arvidsson, he fell off a big cliff. Remember when he almost scored like 40 goals that one year? And like he's just gone. Like I don't know what happened to him. Yeah, he had 31 goals, then 29, then 34, and this year he had 15 goals in 57 games played.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think they have no leadership on the team. I think that no one's stepping up. I think that because think about it, they had Shea Weber, then they had Subban, and now who do they have? Not that like Roman Josi isn't like a great defenseman, but he doesn't seem like the guy.
He doesn't seem like a personality. Like Shea Weber was like a stoic, like very down to earth leader. PK Subban was a little bit more like flamboyant, like bring some energy to the team.
Yeah, exactly. He's super. I don't want to call him obnoxious because I love him, but like he's obnoxious to an extent.
When he's not on your team, you love to hate him, kind of type player. Because he's just so loud and like in your face about it. I feel like Roman Josi kind of just goes out there and does his thing. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think my biggest reason as to why this team is struggling so much. I mean, first of all, I don't know what happened to Jussi Saros and Pekka Rinne. I mean, again, like I said, you can excuse Pekka Rinne for his age. I don't know what Jussi Saros is. I mean, maybe he's just struggling to being the number one guy, which is totally fair. I mean, it's a big step up, right? You have to fill the shoes of Pekka Rinne, which is ridiculous. But
I mean, I'm looking at his stats. They're not that awful.
No, they're really not. He bought it back down. He has like a 2.7.
Yeah, that's not. It's not good, but like it's not awful.
He at one point both the goalies had above 3 goals against and below 900 save percentages, and then they started giving Saros some more starts, and he started to pull it together towards the end. I think my biggest issue is they just don't have a game breaker. I mean, when the chips are down late in the game when you need a goal, whose number are you calling? I mean, sure, okay. Roman Josi had a great year. I'm not taking anything away from him. Fantastic season for him.
He had 16 goals, though.
But, like, he's not a Nikita Kucherov. He's not an Artemi Panarin. He's not even, I would say, as far as game breaker goes, he's really not even on the level of somebody like Andrei Svechnikov. I mean, those are guys that, when the chips are down, when you need a goal late in a game, you're going to call their number. You're going to give Panarin the puck. You're going to give Austin Matthews the puck. I mean, who are you giving the puck to? Philip Forsberg? I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a 25 to 30 goal scorer like he is, but he's not really doing anything that makes me say, like, oh, he's my go-to guy. Or am I going to give the puck to Matt Duchene or Ryan Johansson? Like, whose number are you calling? Like, and that's
my number.
And that's the problem, I think, with this team in the offseason. When they signed Matt Duchene, I said they have Matt Duchene. His name is Philip Forsberg, or his name is Ryan Johansson. Like, they have this type of player already. Why are you going to go out and sign another one? You can't sign 12 forwards who are all just kind of okay. You need somebody to step up and take control of the game. And they were like, we're just going to sign Matt Duchene because he likes country music. Okay, but is he a first-line center? I don't think so. Like, I don't know. It just, I don't understand why they keep signing these kind of just okay players. Go out and get a game breaker. Go out and shell out the money. Make a trade for somebody. I'm surprised they didn't even take a chance at Taylor Hall. I really don't think Taylor Hall is, fantastic, but at least he's a gamer. Like, I don't know. It just kind of boggles my mind a little bit how things went down in Nashville. Do you think that they should have taken a run at somebody like Taylor Hall this year?
I don't know, honestly. Taylor Hall, like, he's a very interesting player also. I think he's popping off in Arizona. I think that he's the type of guy. We saw it in Edmonton. He's the type of guy who needs who can do it all himself. He wants to do it all himself. He doesn't really want to. He doesn't want to play with the other kids. So I don't really know.
I think they have a winger problem too, because like Forsberg, Duchene, Johansson, Nick Bonino are all centers, or at least they're natural centers. They really don't have anybody like on the wings that's really impressing me right now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really know.
So would you would consider this season a failure for the Nashville Predators?
Yeah, if it's a flip, drip, or skip, that's a skip.
Yeah, I'm not too thrilled with them. Definitely could have been better, and they definitely should have made some better moves in the offseason, I feel. Is there another team that you want to particularly hit on?
I think we need to talk about Columbus.
Perfect. Let's go to the C-Bus. How do you feel about your Columbus Blue Jackets?
You mean, how do I feel about my New York Rangers too? Well, essentially.
Did the New York Rangers West, and then if you travel south a little bit, you'll go to Tampa Bay and find the New York Rangers South.
I think that we need to talk about Merzlikins. We need to talk about Korpisalo, and we need to talk about how this team somehow managed, despite losing their all-stars, to pull out this great run.
So how did they? How do you feel? Like, explain. Do you think it's like that the team mentality? Because I have some opinions on why this team is doing so well. Do you feel like it's a composition thing? Do you think it's just the team, spirit, like the next man up mentality?
I think that they just are like, they're just solid, like through and through. Like, maybe not all the way through and through, but I feel like their first two lines are just both first liners. I feel like if you put their first line or their second line out, you wouldn't know the difference, really, in terms of production and, like, play-wise. They're just good. And the goalies, Merzlikins really, like, Dom showed the league at one point, so there was that. And then Korpisalo is having an phenomenal season.
How do you feel about the defense? Because I think that's a big part of why they're
Jonesy?
so good.
Talk about Jones,
Seth Jones. Why is his name Zach Werenski? Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, I spoke about Zach Werenski on my I spoke about him at one point. I think he was in my top 10 defensemen.
I think he was either there or he was on an honorable mentions list.
Yeah, I think that he's excellent. He's doing phenomenal. Out in Columbus right now.
Yeah, so I feel like to me personally, there's a couple of big things that have propelled this team to being where they are. I mean, first of all, I think a lot of credit has to go to John Tortorella. I think he's done an incredible job with this team and just that next man up mentality. Oh, somebody, Seth Jones is hurt. Next guy's up. Next guy's getting dressed. Oh, Eunice Corposalo goes down. We lose our all-star potential Vezina type goaltender. Next man up. Elvis Merzlikins comes in, struggles for the first couple of games, and then rattles off 3 shutouts in 4 games. I just think that it's.
Didn't Merzlikins win like 8 games in a row?
He was on
under a 2.
A ridiculous run at one point. He had, I think he won like 9 of 10 games at one point.
And they were all like under a 2 or something like that.
He let up, I remember talking, me and you and Steve talked about it. I think he at one point won like either 9 of 10 or 8 of 10, and he only let in more than 2 goals like twice. Like he went on just a tear, and I had the pleasure of watching him post. I think it was like a 48 shot shutout against the New Jersey Devils. I mean, one of the best goaltender performances, the best goaltender performance I've ever seen live.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I think he really is what did it. I think him coming in, stepping up, really like rallied the team together, and I think that it helped them like realize, hey, we can do this. Like We're not just going to lose a guy and then lose the season. We're still in.
Right, because they got screwed, right? Like the league screwed them. They cost them Eunice Corposalo, and nobody's going to tell the league otherwise. Like the league screwed them. But the fact that Merzlikins came in, and like I said, he struggled for the first few games, and then he just hit this run where he just got like 9 of 10, and he's been solid ever since. Right now, he has a 13-9 and 8 record, with a 2.35 and a 9.23 with 5 shutouts. So 5 of his 13 wins are his own shutout. And really, offensively, they're not doing anything fantastic. I mean, their highest point getter has 49 points in Pierre-Luc Dubois. But I think that a lot of credit has to go to John Tortorella. I think he should be in consideration for the Jack Adams Award this year. And a lot of credit is just that blue-collar, keep it simple, next guy up mentality. For the Columbus Blue Jackets. And yeah, I mean, they're doing a hell of a lot better than a lot of people, myself included, gave them credit for. So I'm assuming that you consider this a very successful season for the Columbus Blue 100%. Jackets.
This should have been a decline season. They should have just missed the playoffs this season. Had been really, I mean, they still could have missed the playoffs in theory, the way that it could have ended. But this is where I think they should have been. They should have been just missing the playoffs, on the brink of success, but just not there because they couldn't pull it out. And then they somehow managed to win that long. Like I said, Merzlikins won that long game win streak, and then Korpisalo was solid the rest of the way through.
So do you think that John Tortorella should be in talks for the Jack Adams Award?
I would say yeah, but that's also the fact that I don't really know if anyone else is doing anything worthy of it. Not to shit on the rest of the league, but how many teams really don't belong where they should be right now?
I think if I was reading a couple of other guys that were talked about was Travis Green from the Canucks, Vigneault from the Flyers, and I think, in my opinion, it should be he should be a finalist for it. But some people were saying that the Canucks coach and maybe the Flyers coach would be in consideration.
I could see both of those. I don't really disagree with it. I would say maybe even to both of those because Tortorella's been in Columbus for a while now. He's been doing it. The Flyers haven't really been in this excelled position. And I think that the award since it's per season should go to the best team, that best coach that season.
Right.
So I would say maybe it should go to the Flyers or Vancouver. But I feel like Vancouver's been slowly getting good over the past few years. I think it was just a matter of time before they broke.
That's very fair. And I we've been talking about I have a lot of respect for what the Vancouver Canucks did this year. But I mean, nobody can deny just what an incredible run it's been for these Columbus Blue Jackets. So we're getting to about 40 minutes. Let's talk about one more team before we go on to play-in round predictions. Do you have a particular team you want to hit on?
We don't really need to talk about them, but I just want to say that Florida is a bunch of bunch of fucking idiots, and yeah, that's about it. That's what all there is to say about Florida. We can move
on. Let's kind of briefly talk about them because we're going to discuss them in the upcoming play-in round predictions. But do you feel like we can say that this is a successful season for the Edmonton Oilers, or do you feel like it's like this just like finally they're where they should be? Is it even a success when it should have been like this for 3-4 years now?
I have no idea because next season they probably will be in last in the division again. So,
let's go off of that and let's do. Do you have any final thoughts on the regular season before we move on to the play-in round? Because we're going to start in the West, and the Chicago matchup with Edmonton is the first one in the West.
The fact that Chicago has this is ridiculous, but okay, yeah, let's go. They're literally last in their division, like in their what?
Yeah, I mean, that's just how good the Central Division is compared to the Pacific this year. Pacific Division really not that good, but just to wrap up the regular season, I would say, we didn't talk about them, but from an Islanders fan perspective, it was disappointing that they took such a hard slide. I mean, yes, we had injuries, and yes, we knew we should have got a goal scorer in the offseason, but it was disappointing to see such a hard skid from being 2 points out of the, standing in the Metropolitan Division last year to barely being a wild card team this year. I think a lot of teams have some soul searching. I think Buffalo really needs to get their act together this offseason, or Jack Eichel really might be out the door, which is another topic we can talk about on an offseason podcast. But the Pacific Division as a whole needs to get their act together because they were not really that good. And we didn't really talk about any teams in the Atlantic, but we're going to get to them with this play-in round prediction. So let's start in the West. Edmonton and Chicago. Keep in mind, obviously, everyone, these are 5-game series. This is not a playoff series, technically. This is to get into the playoff bracket. So they're doing a 5-round series. So Edmonton and Chicago, who's winning and how many games, Tim?
I don't know if Chicago can stop Edmonton. I don't know if they have the means for it. I think Chicago has some of the biggest names in the league. They could do it, but I think it's Edmonton probably in like 5.
So you, me, and Steve all agree. Steve said Edmonton in 4. I said Edmonton in 5. You said Edmonton in 5. What's putting Edmonton over? Is it just the Connor McDavid offense factor, or do you think that there's something else to it?
No, it's pretty much just the offensive pressure. But I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be all that surprised if they came out and just shit all over Koskinen or Mike Smith, whoever they start.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. Edmonton doesn't have the strongest goaltending, that's for sure.
If the Chicago Blackhawks come out and score 1 or 2 quick ones real early in that first game, I think they might be able to do it.
And you can't count out playoff Patrick Kane.
That's kind of it. I think Chicago has the experience. I think they could do it. They have the names. They have the bodies. And they have the hands. So, I think it's very feasible for them to beat them. But it's just so unlikely.
Yeah, I'm going to say one name, and then this name is the biggest reason why I chose Edmonton instead of Chicago, and that name is Corey Crawford, because I don't believe in him anymore.
Yeah.
If they still had Robin Lehner, I'm probably picking the Chicago Blackhawks in this series because that's such a big advantage in net. But Corey Crawford is either equal to or worse than either of Mike Smith or Mikko Koskinen, and that's saying something since neither one of them are particularly great. And I just don't trust Corey Crawford anymore. The goaltending's just not there for me. And then the defense, it's Duncan Keith. They're going to buy out Brent Seabrook, so he's not playing very well. And then, who else is there? I mean, obviously the offense for the Blackhawks is there. We know about Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Alex DeBrincat, Dominic Kubalik, but it's okay, but we're starting Corey Crawford. So,
what are you going to do?
Oh boy, it's Crow. He's back, Mr. Glass Groin. And this isn't 2015 Corey Crawford. It's it's 2020 Corey Crawford. Ew.
Essentially, yeah.
So you're saying Edmonton just because the offense is just there, and then obviously the goaltending. Neither team has the goaltending, so you can't really make an argument for Chicago on that. So it's got to be Edmonton.
It's got to be Edmonton.
All right, so we're all in agreement there. So let's move on. We got Nashville Predators versus Arizona Coyotes. How do you feel about this one?
Got the Coyotes.
And this is a big upset because I think the Coyotes are like the 12th ranked team. So we've got Arizona in how many?
Probably, depends where they start on Nashville, honestly. But I'd say I think they sweep them, honestly.
Arizona in 3. Oh,
They have never performed in the playoffs, ever. They literally lost to Ryan Miller.
Oh my, but
like just Ryan Miller.
Just him, all him. Steve and I agree with you. So Steve said Arizona in 5. I said Arizona in 5. You said Arizona in 3. Is it just the goaltending for Nashville that you don't really trust anymore?
I haven't had faith in Nashville since PK Subban left the team, and since before then, honestly, when Shea Weber destroyed Zetterberg.
And I know you love Pekka Rinne and how much he is, right?
Bro, every season he throws my fantasy team. He throws my fucking game predictions in the playoffs. I'm done betting on him.
So, do you feel good about the Arizona Coyotes as a team, or is it just that they're facing the Nashville Predators?
I feel decent about them. I think that they can make it. I think they could make a run. It'd be insanely difficult. I don't give them I'm not giving them my vote for winning, but in the NHL playoffs, I'm not surprised if they make it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way. Obviously, they kind of hit a skid for some reason when they got Taylor Hall. They actually got worse, and they just had this awful skid. Darcy Kemper getting hurt didn't help that. They have 2 pretty good goalies. Darcy Kemper and Antti Raanta are both serviceable starting goaltenders. The offense is kind of just, it has a lot of names, but it's not really clicking. Like you would think an offense featuring Derek Stepan, Taylor Hall, and Phil Kessel would be able to put up some goals, but they're kind of just playing mediocre. The defense is okay. I feel like the Arizona Coyotes are just a slightly above average team, but I feel like they're better than the Nashville Predators in basically all 3 areas at this point. They have a slightly better offense, in my opinion. Actually, that's not true. I'll give the defense to Nashville Predators. Nashville has some pretty good, solid defensemen, but the goalies are better for Arizona, and I just don't feel great about the fact that the Predators just don't have that name. I feel like Taylor Hall in the playoffs, if you need a goal, you can count on him, and I'm not really seeing that in Nashville. So next we have Vancouver Canucks and the Minnesota Wild.
It's the Canucks. It's a stupid question.
The Canucks in how many games?
Probably 5. Minnesota's usually good at winning 1 or 2 at home.
So Steve said Vancouver in 3. I said Vancouver in 3. So we gave the Vancouver the sweep. But what's you said it was a stupid question. So do you think it's just why is Minnesota even here? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Why are they even there?
Yeah, I mean, this is just another mediocre season in a series of mediocre seasons.
Do you want to know what crazy stat? Their goal differential is 0. Just like them. There is 0.
The definition of mediocre. Just in the middle, always getting that 16th to 20th draft pick. Never bad enough to get a top pick. Never good enough to win the Stanley Cup. Just yet another mediocre season for the Minnesota Wild. And I'm really not impressed with anybody on this team whose name isn't Matt Dumba. I mean, Devin Dubnyk had a bad year. I mean, who do they even have on offense anymore? Zach Parise and Ryan Suter are both getting up there in age. Although Zach Parise had a decent season, but they're both getting up there in age. And it's okay, you're still the Minnesota Wild. You're not going to win the Stanley Cup.
Zach Parise will always do well. He's just God-gifted at hockey. It's just he's not going to do what he was doing on the Devils when he was younger.
Yeah, and I just think the Vancouver Canucks have passed them. I mean, the offense is better. Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller. Now you got Tyler Toffoli. The defense, you got Quinn Hughes and Tyler Myers back there. And then the goaltending, Jacob Markstrom is having a fantastic season. Thatcher Demko, sure, he struggled when he had the starting position when Markstrom went down with an injury, but he's still a great goalie, and he's going to be a great goalie in the future. He just needs a little bit of grooming. And I just feel good about the Vancouver Canucks, and I really just have no interest in the Minnesota Wild at this point. They're not doing anything as a team that's interesting to me, besides getting older. So, next up, the last match in the West, we have Calgary and Winnipeg. Calgary Flames and your Winnipeg Jets. How do you feel about this one?
I think it's Winnipeg. I had Winnipeg to win the cup or whatever in that bracket that we did.
So Winnipeg in how many games?
Probably 4.
Winnipeg in 4. So again, we have agreed on me, you, and Steve have agreed on every single matchup because Steve said Winnipeg in 5. I said Winnipeg in 5. You say Winnipeg in 4. The defense on Winnipeg, does that worry you at all? Or do you think it's just okay because you have Connor Hellebuyck in net?
I think it's okay because Calgary just has no offense. Johnny Hockey is Johnny dog shit.
He had a bad year, that's for sure. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Not even close.
And obviously the Winnipeg Jets have a fantastic offense. I mean, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Nikolai Ehlers, Patrick Laine, Blake Wheeler. I mean, just a studded offensive unit. The defense, very young. We knew that going into the season. I think the Jets, by the way, were my second pick for who had the most successful season this year because they weren't even supposed to be having a sniff at the playoffs, and they were like 1 or 2 points out of the wild card. And I mean, Connor Hellebuyck just having an absolute all-star Vezina type season. I'm just not very impressed with the Calgary Flames this year. Johnny Gaudreau is just kind of okay. Sean Monahan, just kind of okay. We knew Mark Giordano was going to take a big step back this year. We didn't know that it was going to be this big. His regression with his age is hitting hard. And David Riddick, big save Dave, again, just kind of been okay.
I feel like David Ayers, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, big save Dave. I feel like they're kind of missing that spunk, that spark. I love Matthew Tkachuk. He had a fantastic year. He's been a super big bright spot for this team. But I feel like outside of that, there's not a whole lot of spark being brought to the table, and they maybe need to do a little bit of shifting on the offensive front. So we agree Winnipeg is going to be moving on here. Fun fact, a weird note, the Jets have the 10th best goals against average in the National Hockey League with that defense. So Connor Hellebuyck's doing something right up in Winnipeg. So we agreed completely. No series really was a disagreement. What series are you most looking forward to or you're most excited about in the Western Conference?
In the West?
So you have your Edmonton, Chicago, Nashville, Arizona, Vancouver, Minnesota, or Calgary, Winnipeg. Which one are you keeping your eye on the most?
I mean, probably Calgary, Minnesota. Calgary, Winnipeg, just because I think that'll be the best series. But I think that Arizona one could be good.
Yeah.
Arizona, Vancouver is my second choice. Third choice is the Oilers, and then the last one is that dog shit Minnesota series that they're gonna make watch.
Yeah, I feel like Calgary Winnipeg's kind of a coin flip. Would it surprise me if Calgary won? No, because again, defense is really not good in Winnipeg, or it's not good. It's just very young. So I think that's probably, to me, that's the closest series that I could see going either way. That's a coin flip to me. To give credit to the Calgary Flames. I feel like the Vancouver-Minnesota series is pretty well sewn up in a bow. Nashville, Arizona, I'm not feeling great about Nashville. Edmonton, Chicago, I think is the second closest series, but I'm most excited to see Calgary, Winnipeg, and Edmonton, Chicago, just because I think watching playoff Patrick Kane go head-to-head with playoff Connor McDavid is going to be great. I think it's going to be awesome. That's going to be a really high-scoring series. So move on to the East here. So Pittsburgh and Montreal is your first matchup in the East.
I'm not going to answer it. Let's move on.
So I'm guessing you're going to say Pittsburgh in 3. It's not even close.
What the fuck type of question is that? Get out of my face.
Well, again, we all agree there. Steve said Pittsburgh in 4. I said Pittsburgh in 5. You say Pittsburgh in 3. We all agree that Pittsburgh's going to win. So you don't think Montreal has any chance in hell at winning this series?
Hell no. They got swept by Detroit.
This is true.
Get the fuck out of here. Oh, do they not have any chance? No, they don't have any chance.
I feel like the only way they could possibly win is if Carey Price went back to like 2015.
I was actually going to say, I'll give him a game. They'll do it in 4 because Carey Price will win 1.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only chance. I mean, Montreal, we know they can't really score that well. The defense is kind of just okay. And your only hope really is Carey Price. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. If Carey Price can stand on his head and turn the clock back a couple of years, then they have a shot. But I don't see it happening. I gave him Pittsburgh in 5 because I think Carey Price is just so desperate to have some playoff success that he'll steal a game or two. But I'm not seeing
what I'm thinking. I think Carey Price will want it real bad, and he'll play really well.
So next series, we have your Carolina Hurricanes against your New York Rangers. Who do you think is winning this series?
Well, I don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to jinx it?
I have no idea. Let's not talk about it.
Well, I'll tell you what I think because everyone cares about what I think, clearly. Steve said Rangers in 5. I said Rangers in 4. I just think the Rangers offense is just too much for the goaltending of the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, the defense is good. You got Jacob Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, Jake Gardiner, solid defensive core back there. I just don't like Peter Mrazek being your starter or James Reimer being your playoff starter. I just think the offense of the New York Rangers is just too good for the goaltending. The defense can try to make up for it, but I mean, at this point, honestly, like I'm probably, if I had a choice between Peter Mrazek, Alexander Georgiev, or Igor Shesterkin, I'm probably going to start both of the Rangers goalies before I give Peter Mrazek the net. That's just how I don't really trust him. I think a lot of the reason they had such a deep run last year was just, they caught the Capitals napping in Game 7. They swept the Islanders. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Islanders just had such a long layoff, and the Hurricanes were coming in hot. They had the upper hand right away. And I just don't like the Hurricanes goaltending. I think their offense is great. I love their offense with Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho, but the defense is great too. I just don't like the goaltending, and I just think that Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad are just going to have a field day. So that's why I'm going with the New York Rangers in 4 games. I think this is a tight series, though. I think if the Carolina Hurricanes win, it would not surprise me.
That's kind of it, right? Like, I believe that the Rangers are the better team, but like Carolina was in the beginning, up until the injuries. Carolina was, I thought, probably was one of my Stanley Cup contenders. Such a solid team through and through. Like,
yeah,
actually, all 4 lines solid.
Yeah, there's not a glaring weakness on the forward or defense front. I think really the issue comes down to the goaltending. Peter Mrazek is hot and cold. He's streaky. And if he gets hurt, there's no Curtis McElhinney this year. It's James Reimer, and I'm not feeling great about that. So we'll leave that as a question mark for Tim. And we'll move on here to the Islanders and the Florida Panthers. How do you feel about this series?
I have no idea, honestly.
This to me is literally flip a coin. That's how I feel about this.
Yeah, like it depends if Anders Lee and like douchebag McGee just face the kid Barzell. If Barzy want to show up, like if both of them want to show up and play like a really hard hockey, 2 of them should be able to win it for the Islanders by themselves. But like, and again, the Panthers goaltending should be lights out. So, toss up.
So do you have a prediction for this series, or it's too close to call?
I'd have to say probably like Florida in 5.
Okay, so this is going to be the first time that we don't all agree. Steve said Florida in 5. I said Islanders in 5. You said Florida in 5. I think the thing that for me makes me feel confident about the New York Islanders going into the series is they're going to be healthy. And I think the record when they were healthy, before Adam Pelech, Cal Clutterbuck, and Casey Cizikas were all out at one point. At one point, the Islanders' entire fourth line was hurt. And for most teams, that's not a big deal. But for a team like the Islanders, that really hurts them because that's your penalty killers right there and your crunch time players.
It makes a big difference. Losing a whole line of players, that's very – because you essentially have to say, okay, when these guys go out, we're not going to do anything. And everyone else needs to step up then.
Yeah, especially for a team like the Islanders where the fourth line, a lot of people consider it the best fourth line in hockey. Casey Cizikas was probably going to score another 20 goals this year, and they just play such big minutes, you know? Yeah, I think the thing is this series to me comes down to one man and one man only, and his name is Sergei Bobrovsky. If he decides he wants to be the Bobrovsky of last year, the Islanders are done in 3 games. We don't have the offense to get past a hot Bobrovsky. We just don't. If he comes out and he plays like he did in October, November, then the thing is the Florida Panthers offense is fantastic. The defense is not great. I think they were one of the better teams for offense and one of the worst teams for goals against this year. And my question really is a team like the Florida Panthers who, you know, they can score a lot of goals, sure, but how good is Bob going to be? For a team like the Islanders, I think, like I said, when they were healthy, the record, I think, was 28-10-8. It was either 28-10-8 or 28-8-2 or something like that. They were like plus 18 games when the roster was healthy. And they're going to be healthy. Everyone's going to be back in time for the playoffs. So that's a big, big help for the New York Islanders. And how hot can Bobrovsky come out of the playoffs being, you know, when everyone's going to be cold? You know, sure, you have training camp, but for goalies, that's not going to replace the 60-something games you played beforehand. So to me, what this comes down to is the Islanders can defend. So if both goalies are cold, the Islanders can defend a lot better than the Panthers do. So then maybe they can take a little bit of the pressure off of Varlamov or Greiss, whereas the Panthers are really leaky in their shots category. They gave up a lot of really high-end shots. Their high-danger chances against was horrible this year. So is Bobrovsky going to be ready or going to be hot enough to stop that? I don't really know. But to me, if he is ready, if Bobrovsky comes in playing like he should be, the Islanders are going to get swept. But if he doesn't, I think the Islanders are going to win. I think this is the closest series out of all of them, in my opinion. And again, it's a coin flip to me. I would not be surprised if the Islanders lost in 3. I would not be surprised if the Islanders won in 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so close. Do you have any other thoughts on this, like as to why you put Florida a little bit of an edge?
Like you said, it's a goaltending.
And then we're coming up to the last series, which is Toronto versus Columbus Blue Jackets. How do you feel about this one?
I think this is the most interesting series out of everyone that we've talked about. Because if Toronto wants to show up, they should, in theory, slaughter Columbus. But if everybody on Toronto doesn't show up and play to win, I think it's Columbus.
So if you had to pick, like, put it all on the line, who's going to win this series? Because I agree, I think this is extremely interesting.
I'd say Toronto probably wins.
In how many games?
Probably like 4.
So again, we all agree on this one. There was only one series where we disagreed, which is the Florida Panthers series, which is really interesting. But Steve said Toronto in 5. Steve said Toronto in 4. I said Toronto in 5. You said Toronto in 4. But would it surprise you at all if the Columbus Blue Jackets won?
No. Like I said, I think this would be the closest series gameplay wise. The only reason I say it'll only go to 4 is because I think it'll be close, but they'll just lose.
Yeah, I mean, so the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to get some help. Eunice Korpisalo is healthy. Seth Jones, huge piece, is going to be healthy. They were really missing his impact on the back end. The reason I said Toronto in 5, I would love to see the Columbus Blue Jackets beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in a play-in round and just rub Kyle Dubas's nose in it. But, I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs just have so much going for them right now. I think even though Korpisalo and Merzlikins had a great regular season, it's still Freddie Anderson. and it's going to be a well-rested Freddie Anderson. A lot of the criticism of Freddie is that he got tired late in the playoffs in previous seasons, going to like Game 7. But he's going to be well-rested. It's going to be a fresh Frederik Andersen. It's going to be a healthy Toronto Maple Leafs lineup. And I mean, the offense for the Maple Leafs, we all know that it's just an incredible, incredible offense. And the Columbus Blue Jays, yeah, I mean, even on the defense plays offense.
On paper, they're probably one of the best. They're probably the best team in the league on paper.
Yeah, and even the defense plays offense because the defense doesn't play defense. But yeah, I just think it's just too much. I love the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think their defense is fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's Toronto Maple Leafs with Austin Matthews, a healthy John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Morgan Riley. I mean, what can William Nylander? How much more can you ask for out of your offense? And I think Joonas Korpisalo is good. He doesn't have any playoff experience, or at least not much, and it's going to boil down to, I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are just going to be overwhelmed. Of course, last year they swept the Tampa Bay Lightning, so we could be sitting here talking about how the Columbus Blue Jackets swept the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that would not surprise me. I just don't. If I had to go with my gut, I don't like the fact that Toronto Maple Leafs play so much offense, but I think that's going to be to their benefit in this series. So for you, the most exciting series is Toronto Columbus, obviously excluding the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, probably. It'll probably be the most high-flying series.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that one. I'm actually really excited for the, again, excluding the Islanders series, I'm excited for the Carolina Rangers series because I'm just so interested to see how this young, high-flying offensive New York Rangers team is going to perform against those Carolina Hurricanes. But, yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, obviously, we're going to have to the NHL announced today that they're going to be doing reseeding after each round. So, unfortunately, we can't really bracket build. So, maybe next episode we'll talk about just or by the time playoffs roll around, I should say, we'll take it on a series by series basis. Maybe we'll do like a little preview episode of who we think is going to be the Stanley Cup champions and talk about different teams. But bracket building is not really going to be possible this year because of reseeding. But I think that's about it, unless you have any last minute things you wanted to add about anything.
I'm good. That's about it. I mean, we pretty much hashed it out without going too into depth. And while we might have ignored a lot of the Western Conference in our discussion, I think that more just comes from the fact that the Western Conference mostly was just about as we thought it would.
Yeah, I think the problem with the Western Conference is it's kind of not predictable, but I mean, come on, like every single team in the Central Division was at place 24 or higher. And 3 out of the top 4 teams in the West were from the Central Division. I mean, we know that the Central Division is good, and we know that the Pacific Division is not very good. When we talk about the regular season wrap-up, I mean, it's, again, we all live on the West Coast. Me, Tim, and Steve, East Coast. Yeah, we all live on the East Coast. So catching a lot of those interdivisional games, like we don't get to watch a lot of like LA, San Jose, or like Edmonton, Calgary. So it's a little bit harder for us to talk about with the regular season. Obviously, come playoff time, we all sacrifice sleep and do what we got to do to watch them. But fret not, Western Conference fans. We are paying attention, and we do talk about you guys a fair bit. So next episode, I have no idea what it's going to be. We're going to have to figure that out. But stay tuned for when these playoffs roll around. We will be doing content probably on a series by series basis. So when the first round ends, or not when the first round ends, when the playoff play-in rounds all end, we'll kind of talk about the bracket, how we feel about it, and then we'll do our weekly content going forward. So stay tuned for that. Next episode, I don't know what it's going to be about. We got to figure that one out. Who the hell knows? But before we end off, I do want to give a shout out to Oscar Lindblom of the Philadelphia Flyers. It was announced the other day that he has completed his cancer treatment and that he is ready to go. He might be able to even be playing in these playoffs. So from everyone here at the Lighting Lamp Podcast, we just want to extend our congratulations and our well wishes to Oscar Lindblom for completing his cancer treatment, ringing that bell, getting out of the hospital. And we hope you have a long, healthy, cancer-free life, whether that be on skates or whether that be, outside of the NHL. We're just very happy to hear that news. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys again next time.
Bye.